Okay, well, I am a commercial fisherman, a lifelong commercial fisherman, having been out here on a boat since I was 9 years old with my dad. I started in August. It was in August that Dad uprooted me out of my home and brought me out here and showed me the ocean and got me started. And it's been quite a life. It's been awesome. It's been freedom that you cannot imagine, and I've appreciated it more and more as the years have gone on. And yeah, I'm just a small boat guy, and I figured out a long time ago that I wasn't going to be able to take any of my wealth with me when I leave this world. So I'm pretty satisfied with what I have, and it is what it is. It's a small boat operation run out of Craig here, and it's been good for my wife and my three kids and me, and we're very happy. Um, Fishing hasn't always been easy. It took me a little while to figure out that just salmon trolling wasn't going to provide me with the money that I needed. So I immediately, with the three small kids, one small child at first, but as the family grew, realized that I needed to diversify and broaden my horizons. And so that's when I started doing different fisheries that the size of boat that I have would accommodate. And that's how it all unfolded. And now I love salmon trolling, but due to restrictions and a lot of different things, well, that's very limited. So we've gone into halibut in the '90s and before that actually, but um, yeah, we hung with our long lining and salmon trolling. Then I picked up a little diving in the fall, and it's been a great way to make a living. It's been a lot of fun, and an opportunity to talk about it has arose. So I'm right here to do it. I'm more than happy to share any of my experiences uh, that I've had over the years.
That was perfect. Thank you. So, tell me about the boat.
Well, this boat was we're the third owner, and it's 47-foot Sunfjord fiberglass Sunfjord, and it was quite an improvement over our previous boat, which was a 36-foot wooden troller, but troller longliner. But named the Axella was the name of that boat. It was Alaska spelled backwards, and it was Axella, and it was an old name that Chuck Arrington had on a boat that had sunk off of Lime Point, and so the name was kind of floating around without a boat under it, and we grabbed it because I had to change the name of that wooden boat when we got it due to the previous owner keeping the name. So we we went ahead and named it the Axella. But this boat is it's been a good one. It's really tough, and it's always brought me home through some. We fished winters for a few years out here off the coast, fishing yelloweye in the winter, and we really put the test to the boat a few times, and it always brought me home. So I have very strong feelings for my boat. Uh, it's yeah, it's kind of like respect in a way, but you don't mind working on it or putting money into it to keep it up because it does the job, and so it's been a lot of fun. But Eric Sunland had the boat built down in Auburn, Washington in 1978 and 79, the winter of 78. And he fished it a few years, and it was the Valhalla Star when it was launched, and I remember seeing the boat the very first year and never imagined that we would own it. And we actually went south in the fall of '90 to look at a boat called the Aquila. It was a steel troller, about a 30-year-old steel troller, maybe not the best investment, but as me and Steve Meyer went into the business deal, um, and actually we were to meet at the bank. Well, I was at the bank at 2 o'clock, and so was the banker, a fellow named Michael. But Mr. Meyer never arrived. He and when I reached out to him, called him, he said he couldn't do it. He couldn't sell his boat, and he had changed his mind, which I at this point in my career, I totally respect and understand. I don't hold it against him at all, especially being as though we wound up with this boat, this fiberglass boat, which fiberglass is very messy to work with, as we know. But once you've got it, it's there. It's not gonna corrode. It's not gonna rust or rot or it's tough stuff. So it's been fun to learn how to work with fiberglass and to keep the boat up and to actually to change it over a little bit more into my style of fishing and because every boat you buy is not ever set up exactly as the new owner would like, and so the first year is always kind of tough for getting it turned around and set up the way you want it. But after over 30 years, this boat is definitely set up how I like it, and yeah, it takes us out and brings us back. We love it.
Yeah. You take care of her and she takes care of you.
That's well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
So, would you explain just to someone who's never seen a longliner or knows anything about that process, what longlining is, how you do it, and
Okay, well, long lining is exactly what it sounds like. It's you're putting hooks on a long line and you're running it over ground looking for different species, whether it be yellow eye, halibut, sablefish, whatever you're targeting. You put it in their home. You put it where they live, and then that's how you harvest what you're after. In other words, so yeah, it's most okay. So we're running 30 skates a gear, and these skates are 1,800 feet long. So it takes three of them to make approximately a mile. So we're running 8 to 10 miles a gear because not all the skates are their original length. Some of them get bad spots chopped out or whatever, and they get shortened up a little bit. But we're running in 3 sets, 3 to 4 sets. In other words, we're shortening these things up a little bit so that we have buoys, on each end where if we get hung up, we can get it back. We're not just setting it all out on one string in one spot. We're spreading it out over an area, and yeah, that's kind of how. So we're running maybe 700 hooks, for our halibut, and 3,000 for our sable fish. But the hook fishing for the sable fishing is pretty much a thing of the past due to the whales moving in off our coast, and so fortunately. National Marine Fisheries and some of our top fishermen got together with the pots, and so now we're able to run these slinky pots, which are very nice for a smaller boat because they collapse and they fold down into, say, 4 or 5 inches. They're 38 inches in diameter, and then they're 4 or 5 inches thick. So you can stack up 120 of them, which were allowed fairly easily, on a small boat. And so it's been quite a learning curve for me on this pot deal, and very expensive to get started. And but it's been worth the switch. But it's taken me 3 years to build up, my 120 pots, and we're required to have a vessel monitoring system, and our logbooks are filled out, and I have to report in quarterly whether I'm fishing or not. It's been a lot of change in that respect. A little bit of over management because of it being a new fishery, but at the same time, it's worth all the loopholes that we're having to jump through because it's nice. It's better on the hands. We're not handling all those hundreds of hooks, and it's kind of fun to be part of a new fishery. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. Thank you for explaining that so well. And the management of groundfish is different than the management of salmon, right? It's a different
Oh yes,
organization.
yes. The federal government has taken over our IFQ, our individual fishing quotas, and so they manage that with the state because we are in state water and federal water. So there's 3 miles, 12 miles, and then 12 to 200, and there's different areas managed by different parts of the government, and yeah, we have to accommodate all of them, but it works.
Okay, cool. And then when you said that there was monitoring, is that a like electronic monitoring or like an actual person?
There is a we're required to have the electronic monitoring. We're also required to be part of an observer program. The the electronic monitoring runs 100% of the time when we're doing our IFQ fishing. Um, so that's how that works. But we're also part of a call-in deal where you call in to a group that handles the observers. They manage the observers. AIS is their name, and they manage the observer program. And we're required to call in every time we plan a trip, 3 days, 72 hours prior, and then run through a selection process, and then we find out if we are going to have an observer or not. And it's not 100% observer coverage, although there's now, like for the slinky pot fishery, it's a little higher of a selection uh,
Mm.
group percentage than it is for the hook and line, like the halibut. So it's they change things around all the time, and do what's best for the fishery, and in their mind, and usually that is the case. So
Perfect. Awesome. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your dad, and I know your son's involved in the fishery, so that would be nice to hear a little bit more of your family
yeah,
history. Yeah.
yeah. Well, my dad was one man in ever forever. There's no one quite like him ever, and so it was really a lot of fun growing up under him. He he's sharp. He didn't make mistakes. Okay, he knew what he's doing. He had it all figured out. He's the kind of fellow that could speak and talk with different people. And when he came away, he had gathered way more out of those conversations what people would ever have guessed. But yeah, no, but yeah, he loved his boat, and the Patsy was the name of it, Patsy, and it started out as a double ender, and then when he had it changed over to a round stern boat and wrangle in the shipyard there, and it was quite a bit bigger after that. But yeah, fishing with him, and then the seasons used to open in April out here, and luckily I was homeschooled, so I'd be able to get away a little early, and I put in a couple Aprils out here with him, mostly just laying down seasick, you know. But one nice days I'd get up, and then as I got older, and seasick meds and all helped, and I was able to. But the thing about the old man, he says, you never said you wanted to quit, and see, that was the one thing that kept me with him, because I was useless when I was sick, and why he put up with me, I don't know, but he did, and mainly because I never said I quit, and that's what got me through. And yeah, it was something. But yeah, yeah, it was a different world then out here. The sheer waters, the whale birds. They just make the sky black at times with the birds. And you don't see that anymore. It's really the whole picture is it's kind of scary that in my short career here of 50 some years, it has really changed out there. The whole ocean is just I don't want to say dying, but it's definitely a lot quieter than it used to be. And the overfishing of our herring, I attribute a lot to this. And I don't have anything against fishermen, herring fishermen. I don't have nothing against them. It's the state is allowing over harvest of the base of our food chain, and it's hurting us. And as we support bigger whale, families, bigger pods of whales, more whales, we need more food for those fish. And to destroy the herring and then allow what needs those herring to continue on, whether it be salmon or whatever feeds off the herring, is really terrible. It's really terrible to see. And I feel this, and this is a little bit off of the fishing subject, but I feel the same way about our deer, our venison. Totally mismanaged. The seasons are opened way too early, they're run way too long, and there's too many deer being taken. It's getting so a local can't even go out and hardly fill his freezers anymore. And but I won't get into that too much. I'm going to stay on the fishing side of things, and we'll take it at that. But yeah, herring. that's one of my biggest concerns. I mean, climate change and the feed source, for everything, and why it isn't surviving better, and we don't have more of it. That's it's a real concern. And I'm at the end of my career. I'm looking ahead. I'm seeing problems for the young men and women coming up. And it's time for the state to step in and do something, big time. Yeah.
Speaking of the future, so you have a son involved in the fishery as well, so you're
Yeah. Yeah, it was
continuing
fun
on.
raising him up the way my old man. I was able to torture him the way that Dad did me. It was a lot of fun. And Steven, the same way I am. He ain't quitting either. He's more determined than ever to be a fisherman, which is just impressive to me. It's like, wow, okay. But we talked him into taking a little different course than the hook and line fishery because so many things are after our salmon. So many different fisheries and entities and you know just everything's after our king salmon. So it's really tough to count on that for a living because it's very unpredictable and could be taken away from us at any moment. And that's the way it is. The state wants our salmon, our treaty. Our treaty agreed on salmon. The state is stealing them from us, they're taking them from us, and they're giving them to another fishery. And for us to stand by and witness this, it's tough. It's tough to see someone who stood up, the state of Alaska, has stood up for me and my fishery for all of my life. And now to watch them turn around right here at the very end of it and start doling out fish that was allotted to us to other fisheries, it's frustrating. It's tough. So we talked Stephen into going into another fishery, one where there's lots of fish, and that's chum fishing for gill netting for chums and sockeye, and that's what they're doing right now. And they're having a record year in Lynn Canal right now. For some reason, the fish really had a good survival rate on the ocean, and they come in by the thousands up there right now. Yeah, it's unbelievable what they're doing up there. 150,000 pounds and stuff. Some of the gill netters. Yeah, my his wife's pregnant and all. They're a little behind that, but they're right in there. It makes a guy proud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. And your son's name is
Stephen George. Yeah, he's named after both of his grandfathers, Stephen and Steve and George. Yeah. So George Murphy
Oh, okay.
was his grandfather on his other side, who I never met because he passed away before Kathy and I met. So and started having a family. Yeah. So anyway, but no, and I've got two beautiful daughters too. I've got two wonderful daughters, and one of them just moved back to Anchorage from Germany, and she's married to a FedEx pilot and doing well, and yeah, she's kind of a late bloomer, but she's doing her own thing, and she's got it together. She's really, and then I have my daughter Melissa who lives right here in Craig because she won't get too far from her parents. She wants to stay close by to mom and dad, make sure they're okay, and that's great too. So she's helping me all the time. In fact, she was down here the other day overhauling pots, and these pots they require the escapement mechanism, rotten cotton, right? So every year before we set them, we got to string new 18 inches of rotten cotton in them, tie them off, and I've been adding these escape rings to these pots too. We're allowed to put in escape rings, and right now the sablefish, um, yeah, the market's kind of weak, and it comes and goes. But right now it's kind of weak, so the bigger fish are the most desirable ones, and so we're trying to let the little ones live. And fortunately, Noah has allowed us to put these escape rings in, so you just have to sew them into the pots and get them to go and stuff. But yeah, so Melissa was down here helping me. So I'm really lucky with all three of my kids. They're top notch, and they understand Dad and what he does, and they support me. They support me 100%, and that's all I need. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, the lucky thing about doing these interviews and being in Southeast Alaska is that I know a lot of you guys, and I know Kathy as well. So we better talk a little bit about Kathy too, because
Okay.
you told about everybody else. So
All right. Yeah. Well, that's been an ongoing learning Kathy and getting to know her. It's still an ongoing process. Um, she's a hard woman to describe, other than just headstrong and does her own thing and very smart. very smart, and yeah, don't cross her. But no, it's been a great. We started out. She was working. She was working for a fellow named Steve Storm out in Kawak. She had come up here to visit her sister who lived in Heidelberg, and then wound up going to work for Steve. And then that was in the fall, and then that's when we were in the peak of our yellow eye fishery, and so we were bringing in boatloads of yellow eye, and her and I got to meet each other, and the first thing you know, we're shoveling ice together because it was a you shoveled ice out into a chute that went down to the boat, so we shovel ice together, and then I was cutting a little wood for her. And it took me a while. Okay, I had to work at it. All right, it wasn't just immediate. Oh, hi, Matt. Here, yeah, okay, let's do our life together. But I eventually I convinced her that this was the thing to do, and so we've been pretty much together ever since. So it's been a lot of fun. But she's kind of she's got her little charter thing going, for whale watching and sightseeing, and she's an artist. She's got her little glass shop, and then the last 8 or 10 years, she's kind of gotten into we turned the downstairs into a B&B that she does in the summers, and so she makes her living a little bit doing that stuff, and yeah, we get along pretty good. But she's she's quite a lady. It's I'd really have to sit down with a pen and paper over for a few hours to really describe her, but she's I look up to her because she's who she is, and yeah, she's been loyal to me, and put up with me for all these years, and why I'm not real sure, but I'll take it.
Yeah, well, I don't know why I've been lucky enough to be in her good graces, but I'm sure thankful to be there.
Well,
Yeah.
she recognizes the high standard that you set for yourself and your family. Yeah,
Oh, well, that's
she
very kind.
she 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 sees you for who you are, and that's yeah. So she recognizes that's what makes Kathy special.
Yeah.
Is she can read someone quick, real quick,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Oh,
that's
thank you.
right. I won't get into that too much further, but
um,
I'm better off to stick with the truth. Let's put it like that.
so, let's see. So, again, you've been answering these questions as we go, so that's perfect. So how about you're heading off long lining. What's a day look like? What,
Okay, well,
give me a 24 hours.
every yeah, just about every trip that I go out on to a fishery, um, I feel a little tickle of anxiety or nerves or blood pressure, or it's hard to describe. There's until you get into your trip, you're always a little bit amped up, and you're ready to go, and even the day before. Sometimes I'm better off to sleep on the boat the night before, because otherwise, if I try to sleep at home, I'm waking up 2 or 3 times all night long, and it just you don't I don't know I kind of like being on the boat before I go, but it doesn't always work out that way. But yeah, it's a lot of preparation. I was fortunate growing up in Myers Chuck. Okay, I'm gonna start back there, and because I figured out right away in Myers Chuck that you just didn't run over to the hardware store and buy what you needed. Right? It wasn't there. So you had to think ahead, and you had to order it in, or whatever. Have somebody pick it up and bring it out. 35 miles from the store. So, and the weather, determined you didn't drive, right? I mean, it was a water show or air or whatever, airplane, and so, uh, yeah, you just learned to always have on hand what you needed, and that come in real handy for fishing, because when I leave town on the boat, I realize that I just can't go grab more bait or more fuel or more hooks or more pots or more line, or whatever you might need, rain gear, gloves, medicine, just endless, groceries, whatever you need to have, you got to take it with you. So my upbringing helped me that way, because I always am aware of what I need, and that I just can't go grab it when I want it. So there's lots of twos and threes on this boat, backup stuff. We start digging through here, we're gonna find stuff even I don't recognize, and I put it there. But it's all on here. Yeah.
Yeah. So once you let go of the lines, what does your day look like from there?
Well, we're 20 miles from the ocean, and almost all my fishing is on the ocean. So you've got 3 to 4 hours of travel time to go over things and get things ready, and kind of decide which way you're going and all that. Which which you can overwork that. You can overdo where you're going because nobody knows where the fish are going to be. Really, they got tails. They're moving around. So I've been very, very lucky and very fortunate in my life that I don't fret too much about where I'm going. I just end up there, you know, and that's kind of how it works. Kind of like a gypsy caravan thing. You just go out and go this way a while. And sometimes you put a little bit of intel into it, like you talk to a friend or whatever, and they say, "Oh, I was over there and that was terrible." And you go, "Well, maybe I won't go that way," But generally, you're just going out and whatever the good Lord gives you, that's what you get. That's whether it's good or bad. It ain't always good. And I've drugged myself into town a few times with no fish, and it is the worst feeling in the world. It's just like it's hard to describe. But you're down, you hurt, you agonize, you hurt for your crew. They aren't always success stories. And the ones that aren't, they stick with you. Yeah, but and it was really bad back in a few years before IFQs during the Derby 24-hour openings for long lining and stuff. Because when you blew that, it was a yearly thing, and you suffered. Yeah, it hurt, and then it cost you IFQs too when they for what you qualified for. So, but we didn't know that at the time. But yeah, I had a hydraulic pump go out once off of Cape Omni, and yeah, we got 4,000 pounds. We came home with 4,000 pounds, but that's far short of the 35-40 that we were looking for. And so it hurt. But I still, well, obviously I'm talking about it right now, right? But we're trying to stay on the upside here, so we're not going to dwell too long on. Yeah, you got to be able to forget, just like a quarterback in the NFL. You got to blow off that last bad throw, right? You got to move ahead. Yeah. So that's the story of my fishing career.
Yeah. Yeah. So, let's see here. So, that leads well into the next question, which is like, do you have a story for me that you'd love to record, or a best day or a worst day? Something you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, well, um, yeah, I don't know. I'm not much of a bragger. I don't want to be bragging. So I'm not gonna get it too far into some of my success stories. But there's been some pretty good ones. Where weather has driven boats away, and I've been the only one there, and I took full advantage of it. Yeah, yeah.
All right. So, what did I miss? Is there anything that you're like, gosh, I wish she had asked this, or wish we'd gone in
Well,
this
we just been
direction?
kind of going along through my career a little bit, touching on some of the things that have made it a lifetime of memories, and yeah, it's just been a blast. It yeah, yeah, you remember storms, you remember different things. One time I had the Axella, and I was going from Craig to Ketchikan in the fall, and I was towing my Boston whaler, and I got around Shacken, and it was before the weather really had the reports just weren't what they are now, and it come up 35 or 40, and all of a sudden my skiff is like going faster than I am, right? So then it zips up a big wave and it surfs on past me, and before I could really get it together, the thing flipped over. The 13-foot skiff flipped over. So the whalers, they have that shovel nose. When you turn them upside down the water, they don't tow, right? So there I am, and I'm trying to get this thing turned back up. It was a memorable friggin' day, I'll tell you. So that was one of my memorable deals there, getting that skiff flipped back up and getting into McLean's Arm, which is a horrible harbor to begin with, and just waiting it out. But there was times like that, where you wish maybe you had someone with you or whatever to kind of share the problems. But no, it's been a good run. I've gone to sleep a couple times, and I've been on the beach. I went on the beach once with my first boat, which we haven't talked about yet, the AK 6470A. That was a 30-foot double ender, and that was my first boat that my dad helped me buy from a friend of his, and that was my first. Yeah, I got it when I was 17 and fished it my first year when I was 18. I only had that boat for maybe 2 years. So, but anyway, I fell asleep at the wheel and crashed into Fish Egg Island one morning early. That was quite an awakening because it was high tide, and when I went up on a gravel beach, I mean, I woke up and I'm starting to figure out what the heck's going on, and I'm trying to back up, back the boat off the rocks, gravel, and it ain't working. So I'm out there throwing all my friggin' lead overboard, the trolling leads, and lightening the boat up, pulling the anchor gear off, and then I'm getting tired by then, and I'm out on the beach. I got the boat in reverse, and I got a big pole there, and I got it under the forefoot, and I'm prying on this damn thing, and it starts to go. It starts to slip out of the rocks, right? Well, okay, great. It's going, I'm going to float. Well, I'm on the beach in the boat. I mean, I grab the anchor chain, right? And it takes off and it's backing out. And I'm so tired from throwing all these friggin' leads overboard and anchor gear and, prying and getting a pry bar. I can't hardly get up on the boat. I mean, I'm like, I barely drug my butt over the bow and got laying on the deck going. I mean, it was a struggle, and the boat, So anyway, finally I got my anchor pulled back up, and I limped into town here. It was only 45 minutes to town. I don't know why I couldn't have stayed awake just a little bit longer, but I didn't. And yeah, that was a memorable deal. So that taught me to stay awake, right? That really helped me. That helped me. And there was a couple other times I went to sleep, but I got lucky and woke up before a disaster. But yeah, staying awake is a biggie, And I told my son that too. I says, because he'd be on wheel watch on here, we'd be running fish to Wrangell or somewhere, and I go, man, you get tired, you wake me up, or you stand up, or you do something. And that young man never, to my knowledge, never went to sleep at the wheel ever, even as a 10-year-old. He could take it. He could do it. Yeah, kind of a night owl kid. So that helped him out, I think. But yeah, no, it was fun watching Stephen handle the boat and learn how getting to my son. He actually Stephen, before he could really do heavy gear work, I when it was just short-handed, I would be out doing the gear work, and my 6-year-old son is in here running the boat, right? Well, it turned out, he became a skipper before he really became a deckhand, which I think is a little unusual. And he became a good skipper. He understood, like just staying awake, for instance, and navigating, and just making the right decisions, and as just a little tyke, and yeah, so it allowed me to get the work done that needed to be done without slave laws on my son. You know what I mean? Because steering the boat's a little easier than getting out there and doing the heavy lifting or whatever. Yeah, so that's really brought a lot of respect from me to my son, because I saw what he was capable as a really young guy, and now this last winter I went over to a new electronic system, a new navigation system, which is called Time Zero. It's made by Noble Tech, but it's really high tech. It has all the bathy stuff, and it's incredible. It's as good as you can get for this size of boat, and Steven understands all that stuff. He's very savvy. So he installed it for me. I mean, I got this box of stuff. I had no idea where nothing went. And he, of course, he had Time Zero on his boat for a couple of years, so he understood it. But the Gale Renee is their boat, him and his wife, Melissa. Yeah. But yeah, so Steven, he set me up with this new system, and I'm really liking it. It's just unbelievable. It's got the radar is, it's got a satellite compass on it, and so the radar screen turns with the boat, and if you're over on your plotter side and you lay out a track line, like say where you set a string of gear, well, over on the radar it lays out the track line too. So when you want to run to it, you can aim it either into that track line, and you go right straight to it. It's quite a bit simpler than what it used to be, because there was always a little bit of guesswork, until you saw your buoy exactly where it was. But now with this overlay and all this, it's just like, it's simple, it's just like unbelievable. Yeah, it's really a treat to been doing this long enough to get in on some of this high tech electronic stuff that's available now. Yeah. And to have a son who's been doing it his whole life and understands it all, and to be able to teach me. So yeah, it came
Yeah.
full circle there.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when you started out, it wasn't
Oh,
what
when
we
I
use for
started out,
navigation. Yeah.
it was a fathom meter and a compass.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, and if radar if you were lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a lot of guesswork, and it wasn't always good. Yeah, so no, it's a real treat now. Anybody can run a boat now, pretty much.
Well.
Yeah, within reason. A
Yeah.
lot more so than they used to be able to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think we're getting to the end. And then the museum just requires me to ask if there's anything that you wanted to remove. You know, sometimes people say something.
Oh,
on like,
our recording?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, there's not. I don't think there's very little. That I would change here in this conversation. Yeah, yeah. Um, it actually right now one of my biggest concerns is with the way the state of Alaska is handling our fisheries and how they're turning away from the commercials, which and more towards um, the tourism industry, and they're kind of leaving us locals in the dust, and we're the ones that live here year round. We live here year round. We're spending our money over here at the stores. We're supporting the local economy, and we're being forgotten. We're being overlooked. We're being shoved aside for big money. And I realize the state needs big money, and we're not going to supply it. But let's keep things under control. Let's have a little control on things. We don't need out of control fisheries, free for alls starting. I mean, that's how come limited entry came into effect back in the 70s, because things had gotten completely out of control with the commercial fleet. And now, here we are, history's repeating itself. Only it's not us that's out of control, because we've limited ourselves and we've accepted these regulations. And now it's being turned over to a whole new fishery, and they're not locals, and they're coming in here and they're taking and leaving, and not leaving us nothing but a big empty hole where our fish used to swim. And I touched on it earlier. The treaty, the salmon treaty between California, Oregon, Washington, Canada, us. Okay, that treaty has been violated. We're being ripped off, and our fish are being given away to another fishery. And I'm supposed to sit here and like it? No, I don't want to end this in bitterness. But it is a serious problem. And am I happy? No. Am I still able to make a living? Yes. Is it as good a living as it would have been before they started ripping off fish from me? No. My boat's lacking. My family's lacking. We're giving up stuff that would benefit us for people we don't even know. And they don't live here, most of them. And so the state really needs to look at themselves. Our governor needs to look at himself and decide, is he with the working person, or just who's he trying to benefit here? And it certainly isn't this fishery, the salmon troller. So anyway, yeah. And speaking of salmon trolling, it is the most enjoyable way to make a living that a person could ever come across. You're free, you're your own boss. You can put as much effort into the quality of your product as you want, and you can make the most delicious, food for people that ever came along. We're not killing, we're not dumping, we're not, it's a clean fishery. Okay, we're not hurting anything. We're not hurting anything. And that's what's so frustrating, because that really isn't the attitude that the state has taken lately for us. It's yeah, they're not giving us what we deserve. So frustration. But would I change anything? And would I no, I would not. My life is complete. I'm happy with the way it's gone. Yeah, it's been a blast. And yeah, I like competing. And I don't always come out on top, but I like to try. In my mind, I think I'm doing pretty good. So that's okay. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think I'll press the stop button, and thank you so much for your time, and
Well,
appreciate it.
this is so important. that people have an interest in what we're doing and what's happening, and any contribution I can make towards getting the word out for the commercial fishermen, I'm more than willing to do it. And I thank you, Brooke, for taking the time out of your time to do this. So
it's a big honor.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.